Hi there, this is Tony from pianotone.ca, and this is my review on the Yamaha PSR-E463 Arranger keyboard. Let's check it out. Okay, so the Yamaha PSR-E463 actually came out in 2018. At the time of this review, which is in March 2022, this keyboard, along with the 76 key version, which is the PSR-EW410, are still the flagship keyboards in the Yamaha PSR-E series lineup where I happen to live. However, they are both currently being replaced, finally, by the PSR-E473, which is the new 61 key version, and the PSR-EW425, which replaces the 410, which was the 76 key version. Now, since I am strongly considering buying one of these new models once they're available, I decided to rent a PSR-E463 for a month or so while I'm waiting, to really get familiar with the model and also to do this review. I thought the review would still be useful since there's going to be a lot of these that have been sold worldwide since 2018, and so you'll continue to see them in the used market for some time. And there'll also be some discounted 463s available when these new models are available where you happen to be. So this review should also be helpful to people interested in saving some cash if they don't need the features that are on the upgraded new model. At the end of this review, I'm going to go over some competing options, and I will definitely mention the new models and what they have to offer. And before I get started, if you follow my channel, you probably know that while I occasionally dabble in the Arranger keyboard universe, for the most part, I'm a piano player that enjoys playing with backing tracks and practicing with rhythms. So while I will go over the basic Arranger features and things like the groove creator, arpeggiator, etc., I will be focusing this review more on the piano and keyboard player-centric features. Okay, so the feature summary for the PSR-E463. 61 full-sized organ-style synth action keys with 4 levels of touch sensitivity, so 3 levels and off. 758 voices, 14 are featured voices, and there's 48 notes of polyphony. For effects, there's 10 DSP effects, 12 types of reverb, 5 types of chorus, and 6 types of EQ presets, and there's 26 types of auto harmony. For connectivity, there's a 1/4-inch headphone out, there's a 1/8-inch audio in, there's a USB to host port, which is both MIDI and audio, which is a fantastic feature. 1/4-inch pedal input for either a pedal to set up a sustain or an arpeggiator or harmony pedal. USB type A port for a flash drive where you can load styles, play audio, or save audio files. There's a backlit menu screen and a very intuitive context-sensitive user interface. 2 live control knobs you can use for DSP effects or reverb, chorus, that type of thing for on-the-fly changes to your sounds. There's 235 rhythm styles with 2 variations of each, optional accompaniment, optional intros and endings, sync start, that type of thing, fills. Really cool thing though is the ability to mute individual instruments if you don't want to have everything playing. Let's say you just want to play with the drums and the bass, for example. That's very cool. There's also 10 slots for loading custom styles. 32 registration memory slots to save your custom setups. There's a metronome. You can transpose up or down 12 steps. There's actually quick access keys on the panel for that, and you can also octave shift. You can split and layer, and you can adjust the relative volumes of the 2 layers. There's an arpeggiator with 176 types. There's a song recorder. You can record 10 songs, up to 5 tracks each, plus an accompaniment track. There's sampling, and there's also a groove creator with 35 grooves and 5 groove sections. There's a 1-touch setting for recommended voices and tempo for a chosen style. You can run on the keyboard on 6 AA batteries, and there's 12 watts of speaker power, and it's compatible with the Yamaha My Recorder app for creating quick and easy videos. So just a quick overview on the user interface on the Yamaha PSR-E463 keyboard. My apologies for the blurry close-up of the menu screen, but my webcam definitely needs an upgrade. That one's kind of a low-resolution one. But on the left side, we've got power. We've got the master volume control. That's the quick sampling button if you wanted access to sampling features. Transpose key. That's actually pretty handy. I can hit transpose and then I can use the dial to go up and down keys. And because the Yamaha PSR-E463 doesn't have a panel button for octave shifting, which is a major shame, typically every time I turn this on, I just transpose down 12 steps, which is the same thing, and it works fine as long as I don't need to also actually transpose to a different key, and then that whole workaround doesn't work. There's a melody suppressor button if you want to attempt to suppress the melody on a backing track that you're streaming in from the audio in or the flash drive. The audio button here is for recording audio to a flash drive. And then the record button is to access the onboard recording features. Metronome button, I can hit that, and metronome starts up. And you can, of course, set the time signatures and stuff like that. There's a tempo tap button, so you can tap the tempo, or you can just adjust the tempo by hitting it once and then adjusting the tempo up and down. And that works for both the metronome and the rhythms. The voice control, if I go back and display the main voice on here, it's currently on grand piano 001. If I hit split, it's going to default to a bass guitar. And then I've got piano on the right hand side, but that's going to you can set which voice you want for the upper and the lower voice, and you can also adjust the relative volumes as well. And then if I turn the split off and on, you can see that you do get a notification up on the screen that the split is off or on. And then dual, same thing. By default, I'm going to get strings. But once again, you can hold this button down, and then it's going to display the dual voice, which is strings, and then I can adjust that voice to whatever voice that I want. So if I switch that to vocal ensemble, then I have that instead. So very cool. The harmony arpeggio button is to access harmony and arpeggios, as you might imagine. And with all of these buttons too, if you may notice when I was holding down the dual button, that's how it would actually load up the settings on the display. So if I hit harmony, that's just going to turn harmony on or off. But if I hold it down, then it's going to allow me to then choose which kind of harmony that I want. DSP, that's how I access the different DSP effects. And once again, I hit it once and it turns it on. You can just see it light up. But if I want to actually modify it, then I hold it down, and then that's how I can choose what DSP effect that I want to work with. Over here, we've got the live control section. These are super useful. Basically, what you can do with the live control knobs is you can cycle through what you want them to do. So for example, if you watch in the screen here, the knob assign section, right now it's assigned to 1. So that means that this one's going to be cut off and that one's going to be resonance. If I set it to 2, then I'm going to have reverb and chorus. That's usually where I have it. And then set it to 3, you're going to get the DSP parameters that for whatever DSP effect you have set. 4 is attack and release, and then also a very handy setting is number 5, which is to set the volume balance. And you can specify whether you want these to be applied to the main voice or the keyboard backing, that type of thing. And then you can work them with the knobs. I'll be displaying that when I get to the effects section. Buttons in here have two functions. One is for the rhythms, so you've got your standard arranger keyboard stuff: start, stop, sync, start, sync, stop, main autofill, and then intro and endings, and then accompaniment on or off. You can also hold down this one and you can specify the split point where you want it on the keyboard. So for example, and you'll actually see on the display, it's quite nice that it's marked on the display of the actual button, as opposed to having to know what the keynote is. And you can see I can adjust the split point up and down. That's very cool. Then on the top side of this, you'll notice these A, B, C, and D sections, and then musical climax. And that is referring to the Groove Creator. So when I'm using the Groove Creator, those buttons double for doing that. Now in this section, we've got track control, and this has multiple purposes as again. For example, with the style, you're going to be using this to mute or unmute different style parts, which is super handy. I use that all the time. So you can, and I will demonstrate that when I get to the rhythms demonstration and the accompaniment demonstration, but you can turn on and off the bass, the drums, the different chords that are being played if they're in use, the pad, and different phrases. For recording, you're going to be specifying, using these to specify what track you want to record to. You get 5 tracks, and then the 6th track is used for accompaniment if you're using it. And then if you're using the Groove Creator, you can choose which one of the different groove tracks that you want. Okay, so the right side buttons, these are basically your navigation buttons up in the right hand corner here. So for example, if I hit voice, so I can choose my voices, you'll see the voice gets displayed. And then I can use either categories,
to go right or left. So I can go into the E-piano section or the organ section, and then go into guitars, strings, choir, whatever. I could also just use the wheel and just go one by one, or I could go one by one with the up and down arrows, or I could go to, say, voice 40 just by hitting 40 if I happen to know what the number was. So the navigation's pretty easy. Now to get into the, and there's also, just to return back to voice 1, which is the piano, there's a handy portable grand button, so that'll always take you back to voice 1 quickly. And then you can also access the function menu to get into various functions. So if I hit function, then you're going to use the, see it's on split point at the moment, then you can use the category button to navigate between different functions like touch resistance, the main voice volume, octave, that type of thing. And as I go through these, let's say I stop on main voice volume, then I can, while I'm on that, I can once again use the wheel to move, make changes, or use the up and down arrows to do that, or I could use the keypad. But I'll put that back to 122 again. Then on the just below that, these buttons here are just basically how you access different functions on the keyboard. So when I want to select voices, I hit that. If I want to select styles, I hit style, and then I can once again navigate using the dial, or I can use categories to go to the different categories, or I can use the keypad to type it in directly, or the up and down arrows. And then in the song, the same thing. All this navigation is going to work the same way in the song menu. You can navigate through different songs. And then this is how you get into the Groove Creator. And one handy thing as well on the PSR-E463 is that the voice categories and the style categories are listed, and the song is also listed, song categories, and then the Groove Creator types and categories are also listed over there. So that's pretty handy. So overall, it's a pretty awesome user interface. Just missing a couple of key things, like I mentioned, an octave up and down would be really, really nice. Right now, the only way to adjust the octave is to go into the function menu and then go find it. And there's the main octave voice. So then I could go, let's go down an octave. I'm going to go over to the transpose setting. I'm still transposed at 0. So you can see I have gone down an octave. But the only problem with that is, let's say I switch voices. Let's say I go to voice number 2. I lose my octave setting. And that's what's frustrating, is that I have to go back in and do that again. That's why when I turn the keyboard on, as I mentioned, I typically just turn the transpose to -12. And that's the same as going down an octave. And then when I switch voices with that, that gets maintained. The only problem is that if I actually wanted the transpose, then I'm not going to be able to do what I just did. But overall, it's a great user interface.
Okay, so the keys. The Yamaha PSR-E463 has 61 full-size organ-style synth-action keys with 4 levels of touch sensitivity. And note that when I say full-sized, it's an octave width of about 160 millimeters, which is considered full-size by most synth-action keyboards, but it's still slightly narrower than the standard 165 millimeter octave that you're going to find on most fully weighted digital pianos. But that's extremely common. Almost every single keyboard that isn't a fully weighted digital piano has this octave width. They're also thinner than a box-shaped piano-style key, but they are that full width size. Now, while the keys are fully sized, they're not weighted or semi-weighted, so they will feel nothing like the keys on a real or weighted digital piano. The action on these keys I find to be extremely light. When I first started trying the keyboard out on the default touch sensitivity of normal or medium, I found I was having difficulty controlling my dynamics because I am used to playing fully weighted pianos. So I switched the touch sensitivity to hard, and that definitely suited my playing style much better, especially once I spent some time with it and got used to it. And once I did get used to it, I was actually pretty impressed with the level of dynamic control that I had. While the keys are very light, they have a very consistent and predictable dynamic response to them. And since they are full-size, someone used to a piano will be able to adapt to the spacing pretty quickly, but the synth action is going to be a bit of an adjustment. But once you get used to it, once again, you can really control your dynamics well. Okay, for voices, there's a staggering 758 voices on the Yamaha PSR-E463, including some pretty good quality and some unique ones. There's 237 panel voices, which are really the main ones that you're going to be using most likely. These are the best quality voices. The remaining voices in that 758 are either drums or XG Lite voices, which are voices that have been brought forward from much older samples. They're by no means bad or anything, and they're very nice to have, but they're not quite the same quality as the main panel voices. Well, all that being said, I do need to note that while the main piano voice on the Yamaha PSR-E463 is perfectly fine, it is starting to become a little bit dated. This is one of the big differences between the PSR-E463 and the 76 key version of the same time period, which is the PSR-EW410. On the 410, they actually put a significantly improved piano voice, the Live Concert Grand, which was inherited from the retired Tyros keyboard line. Note that the PSR-E373, which I've also reviewed, and which is the new version of the 363, which is the lower model of the 463, the E373 also has this improved piano voice. The featured voices on the PSR-E463 are, there's 8 sweet voices, 3 cool voices, and 3 dynamic voices. These are voices that will have some type of an enhanced feature. For example, the Galaxy electric piano will trigger different samples based on your velocity, how hard you play. And other voices, there's 2 organs, a harmonica, a couple of saxophones, a couple of trumpets, and some flutes, will trigger different samples based on how long you hold the note down, like some kind of a vibrato or something. There's clearly far too many voices for me to demo, so I'm just going to pick a few of my favorites to demo in the following video, and I'm also going to demo the splits and the layering feature. I do want to give Yamaha a general shout out about something I've been noticing on their keyboards and digital pianos as I review more and more of them. Their strings patches, especially when layered behind a piano, just always seems to have an absolutely perfect and natural decay. This is something I loved about my P125 digital piano, and I also noticed it on the PSR-E373 and on the Piaggio series as well, and now on the PSR-E463. In contrast, the strings decay on my Casio PXS 1100 piano, and even more so on my Casio Tone CTS1 keyboard, are nowhere near as natural. Now, one thing to note here that was a huge issue for me on the PSR E373 is that as you move between voices, your octave shift setting is going to be lost and requires going back into the function menu to reset it every single time. And since I very often octave shift a 61 key keyboard down an octave, that was really frustrating. Now, the PSR E463 has sort of a workaround for this. Because it has quick access transpose buttons, you can octave shift one or octave up or down using those by basically going the full 12 steps of transposing. So whenever I turn this keyboard on, I just automatically transpose down 12 steps. So that does kind of work. The only issue with this, though, is that if you did want to transpose keys, let's say you wanted to transpose a half a step down from C to B, then you wouldn't be able to do it using the transpose buttons because I've already maxed it out at 12. So you would need to go into the menu deep diving and actually do the octave shift instead, and then use the transpose buttons to just go down one. Okay, for effects, the Yamaha PSR E463 has a pretty impressive amount of effects that can be applied to your voices to customize them to your liking. One very cool feature is that you can assign effects to the live control knobs for quick on-the-fly modifications to your sounds while you're playing. The 10 DSP effects that are included are rotary speaker, distortion 1 and distortion 2 chorus, there's a flanger, phaser, tremolo, auto pan, and then there's a low pass and a high pass filter. Now, in addition to the DSP effects, the PSR E463 also has 12 types of reverb, 5 types of chorus, and there's 6 EQ presets you can choose from, 26 types of auto harmony, and 176 types of arpeggiators. So with all of these effects at your disposal, you really do have a ton of options and combinations to fine-tune your voices to your liking. Once again, there's way too many effects to demo all of them, but here's a quick sample of some of them.
Okay, so just a quick video on the effects on the PSR E463. I am by no means an expert on these, but just going to quickly go through a couple of them with you so you can hear them. I'm also going to assign the DSP to the live control knobs so you can see how these knobs can modify the sound. So I've just got a grand piano sound on, so if I hold down DSP, it's going to prompt me for the DSP type. It defaults to chorus, but I'm going to switch that to rotary speaker. Now, it's not turned on yet because you don't see DSP lit up here, so when I play, you're only going to hear the normal piano. But if I hit DSP to now turn on the rotary, you can hear the rotary taking effect. But now to assign these to the knobs, you can see the knob assign is right now set to 1, so that's going to be cut off in resonance. I'm going to switch that to 3 on the menu there, which is the DSP parameter A and B. So now if I play, you can see that's modifying the DSP effect. So now I'm going to switch to the next one, which is distortion. And we're on that default chorus. It's the most ragtime piano ever. Now we'll try the flanger. I always say that wrong. And phaser. And tremolo. auto pan. And the low pass filter. And the high pass filter.
Rhythms and accompaniment. The PSR-E463 has 235 rhythms and a wide variety of genres with optional sync start, intros, endings, fills, as well as optional accompaniment, which includes backing bass and a rhythm section of various instruments. Really nice feature here is that you can adjust the rhythm and accompaniment volume if you want it adjusted relative to the main voice that you're using, but even more so, and it's a huge feature for me, is the ability to mute different parts of the accompaniment. This is fantastic because sometimes I just want to be playing with drums and bass as opposed to all the other instruments in there, but you can pick and choose what you want to include. For triggering the auto accompaniment, most entry-level arranger keyboards will have multiple chord modes for choosing what chords the accompaniment should be playing. The Yamaha PSR-E463 actually has less choices than most arrangers do for this. It actually only has one choice, which is multi-finger. This is an area Yamaha has always been curiously lacking in compared to the competition. Most of their entry-level arrangers at most will include this multi-finger mode, or possibly Yamaha's smart chord feature, which is basically a Yamaha shortcut method for specifying chords with fewer fingers. What you would do in that case with the smart chord method is you actually specify what key the song is going to be in, then you can just use a single finger, and the keyboard's going to assume that you want basically the diatonic chords for whatever key signature you specified. So if you chose the key of C and you just hit the D key, it's going to give you a D minor, because that's the typical D chord in the key of C. If this is something that is important to you, then you should look towards alternatives from either Casio or Korg, which have 5 or more chord detection modes. So here's a quick video showing the auto accompaniment, including using sync starts, fills, and style variations.
Okay, so for rhythms and accompaniment, the PSR-E463 has 235 rhythms. They are actually displayed on the keyboard, but you can also just go into the style menu, and then you can use the category button to navigate between categories, or use the dial or the up and down buttons, whatever. I'm just going to take British Rock, which is the default one. And if I just hit play, I'm just going to get drums, and I can play along with that. But if I want the accompaniment, then I hit the accompaniment on-off button, and you can see that shows up here. Then if I start fingering chords, then the accompaniment is going to come in. And one of the best parts about the PSR-E463 is that you've got the ability to mute and choose basically what instruments you want included. You can tell which ones are in use where you see what's lit up there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Means that there's no phrases in this part of this particular rhythm, and that might change depending on the style that I've chosen. So for example, I can start thinning the sound out by removing some of these instruments, get right back down to just the drums. Can even turn those off, and then put them back in. So you can vary that to get different kind of levels of intensity through your song while you're playing. Now if I hit autofill, it's going to fill it from variation B into variation A, which is it was in B before, so now it's in A. If I hit the fill button again, it'll go back to variation B. I'm just going to hit stop. Now let's say I want to have an intro, so I'm going to hit an intro, and then it's going to go into B. Let's say I wanted that to go into A. I'll just hit the main autofill. So now it's going to be an intro into version A of the style. And let's say I want to have sync start, so it's going to start as soon as I hit a chord. Now you can see it's counting down the intro number of measures, so that way I can time when I'm going to come in with whatever I'm playing. So now it's in that main part again. And then I can switch chords, throw in fills, switching back and forth to the different style parts, all of that type of thing. So pretty handy, and for me especially, what I tend to use a ton of is simply just the drums and the bass, because that's how I like to play along. And then you can specify whatever voice that you want in the upper side, and you can also specify the split point, which is also super handy. And to specify the split point, you just hold down the accompaniment button. It says split point underneath there. And then you can see the key is being displayed for where the current split point is, and then you can just use the arrows to move that up and down.
So there are tons of useful rhythms available. I was able to pretty easily find usable rhythms for straight and syncopated beats, as well as some shuffle rhythms and some useful 3/4 or 6/8 time signature rhythms as well. I'm pretty much a rock, pop, and blues kind of a player, so I didn't investigate many of the other styles and any of the ethnic beat options, but there's tons of choices here.
Okay, so this is just going to be a very quick introduction into using the registration memory slots on the Yamaha PSR-E463 keyboard. There's 32 slots available to you, which is a big upgrade over the PSR-E373, which only has 9, which is a crazy low number for an arranger keyboard. But 32 is a big improvement, so you've got actually 8 of them within each of these 4 banks. So I'm just going to make a few different changes here to my sounds and styles and settings and stuff, and then we'll store that in a bank and then recall it and see how all of this works. So I'm going to change my default piano sound from grand piano to let's say jazz organ 1. Okay, so there's my main sound. Now let's say I also want to shift the octave. So I'll go into the function menu, find the main octave, and then I'm going to shift that down 1. Okay, now I'm going to go to the style menu. Let's choose a style, and I'm going to get off the default one, and I'm going to go up to, let's go to glam piano. Let's just hear what this sounds like. Okay, so now I'm going to speed that up. So I'm going to go to the tempo, and I'm going to change it from 69 to 110. Play that again. Okay, now I'm just going to hear what the style sounds like. So I'm going to turn the accompaniment on, and then hit start again. So you can see on the menu that it's using all of the different parts. So let's say I don't like all of those. Those phrases are okay. So let's say I want to take those 2 strumming parts out, and I just want to have it like that. Okay, so that's all good. So now I'm going to go ahead and save that in a memory slot. Now the way that you do that, you might think you go in to here first, but you don't. What you want to do is hit just bank once. Now that number 1 is actually the number from 1 to 8 within this 1 or this 2 or this 3 or this 4. So I'm going to say I want to store it in bank, let's just say 7 of number 3. Then I'm going to hold down bank and hit 3, and then it says memory OK. So that was stored in bank 7 on registration slot 3. So now I'm going to turn the keyboard off. And back on again. Okay, so I'm at grand piano. For style, I'm at British rock. For tempo, I'm at whatever British rock was, which was 118. And the octave, if I go into function and go to main octave, you see I'm at 0. So now to recall my setting, I'm going to choose bank, and I want bank 7, and then I want to load registration 3, bank 7. So you can see that I'm at the jazz organ style. My tempo is at 110, and my style is glam piano. And you can see that the numbers 3 and 4, which are those 2 strummy chord things, have been disabled. So let's just make sure this is all working. There you go. And to overwrite an existing bank, you just basically just overwrite the same slot. Okay, so it's pretty easy to use once you know how it works. The one thing that's really missing here, though, is that there's nothing on the display that tells me whether I am in registration memory slots 1, 2, 3, or 4. It just says what bank I'm in. So I don't know if that's 1.7, 2.7, or 3.7, which it is. So that would be a real nice thing for Yamaha to add to the display.
Okay, connectivity. For connectivity, there's a 1/4-inch port for a sustain pedal, which can be set to be just sustain or to hold an arpeggio or as sustain and or hold an arpeggio. There's a 1/4-inch headphone port that doubles as your audio output, so you could use a splitter cable to go to external speakers or to an audio interface or PA or something like that. There is a handy 1/8-inch audio in, so you can connect an external sound source like an iPad to play along with YouTube or apps, etc. One thing I do want to mention here is that I've noticed on every Yamaha keyboard that I have owned or tested, as opposed to every Casio I have owned or tested, is that on many Casio keyboards, including my Casio Tone CTS1 keyboard, which is actually quite bad for this, the audio in volume is just not balanced well with the keyboard volume. If you turn up the external device to get it loud enough to match the keyboard volume, then it distorts. This has never been an issue with any Yamaha keyboard that I've had, and it's not an issue with the PSR-E463, and it never distorts. There's also a very handy feature on the 463 as well, where you can adjust the volume of the audio in if you did have any issues, and there's no such feature on the Casio Tone CTS1. There's also a USB Type A port that you can use for connecting a flash drive, and you can use that to either play back WAV files from the flash drive to play along with, or you can save high quality audio direct from the keyboard to the flash drive, also in WAV file format. You can also, if you've downloaded some new styles from the internet, you can also load style files into empty user style slots with a flash drive. Now, a huge feature regarding connectivity on the Yamaha PSR-E463 is that it has an audio interface built into the USB to host port. So on most keyboards, that port is used only to transmit MIDI data, which is the data of what you play, not the actual sound of the keyboard, to a PC or iPad, and then you would then work with that MIDI data in recording software of some sort. So you're using the sounds built into the software, not the actual sound coming from your keyboard. But with the built-in audio interface, you can not only transmit that MIDI data, but you can also transmit audio data, which is the sound of your keyboard, in both directions using this port. So the benefits of this are huge. This allows you to record high-quality audio without the need for an external audio interface device. You can connect the PSR-E463 directly to your recording device and send high-quality audio directly to it. And this is not just easier, but it also gives you a better quality audio signal because it is skipping a round of processing done by your external interface. You can also use this connection as an audio in alternative to the 1/8-inch audio in to stream audio from your device back into your keyboard again, so that you hear your audio through your speakers and headphones. Just an alternative to the audio in port. Now, if you're familiar with the Yamaha Rec and Share app, Record and Share app, does not work with the Yamaha PSR-E463. The free Rec and Share app takes advantage of that built-in audio interface on newer keyboards, including the Yamaha PSR-E373, to make it super easy for you to make high-quality videos that you can then upload to YouTube or social media sites, etc. I'm not really sure why it doesn't work with the 463, because the only real requirement for it to work is the fact that you've got this audio interface, but for some reason it doesn't. Not to worry though, because you can use pretty much almost any camera app that's built into your device, your phone or whatever, or you can use the older Yamaha My Recorder app, which is actually recording this video as we speak. I've been using this for like over a year now and it works great. And you can use that instead to make any videos with the keyboard hooked up directly to it. The newer PSR-E473 and the newer EW425 will be compatible with the newer Rec and Share app. So if you connect your phone or your tablet to the PSR-E463's USB port, you're going to be able to use the My Recorder app or quite likely any of your built-in camera apps to record a video of you playing, and the audio is going to be high quality because of the built-in audio interface. Okay, so the Groove Creator. This is definitely not up my alley, but the PSR-E463 has a Groove Creator built in where you can choose from various grooves to play along with. Basically, you choose your groove, you click play to start it, And then you can specify what key the groove should be in by using the notes on the left-hand side of the keyboard, and each groove will have kind of busier and busier sections that you can trigger using the accompaniment buttons to build towards a musical climax. And while this is playing, you can play the right-hand side of the keyboard. Once again, not my thing, but here's a quick demo of a piano player trying to express his inner DJ. And I think I'm actually going to try to use the 12-bar blues to do this, so let's see how that sounds. Okay, other features on the 463 recording. You can record up to 10 songs with 6 tracks each. You actually get 5 tracks of your own, and then 1 track is reserved for the accompaniment. There are no fancy features in here like punch in and punch out, so basically you have to record each track basically live, start to finish, and perfect. I'm not going to bother demonstrating this feature. With all the awesome DAW apps out there for recording songs with nice, big, and easy to use graphical interfaces, copy and paste, cut and paste, that type of thing. Onboard recording, in my opinion, is quickly becoming a thing of the past, especially when the editing features are pretty limited. It is, however, a great way to quickly capture an idea, and with a built-in audio interface that can send audio or MIDI directly to your DAW app, then, and the added feature of being able to easily record high-quality audio to a flash drive, the PSR-E463 also has some great features for song recording and much more useful recording functionality than the onboard recorder. Quick sampling. This is another feature that's not really up my alley, but you can sample up to 5 samples on this keyboard, either from the audio input, so not from a mic, but the playback of audio from a device, and then you specify whether or not to loop that sample. And then you can play them back using the keyboard. While this isn't my thing, I think it would be much more interesting if this keyboard had a mic input, so you could do this with your voice instead. Spoiler alert, bring on the PSR-E473, which has a mic input. Portability. One of the benefits of buying a keyboard without fully or semi-weighted keys is portability. The PSR-E463 only weighs 14 pounds. Most digital pianos weigh 25 to 30 or even more. And since it only has 61 keys, it's physically quite a bit shorter in width. Although it's quite deep, this keyboard is quite a bit deeper than any digital piano I've had. But it's still light and it's pretty easy to move around. And you can get by with a smaller and lighter stand as well as a result, which is also easier to move around. So this is a big positive for a pianist or keyboardist that's looking for a portable option. Speakers. The speakers on the Yamaha PSR-E463 are 12 watts, so 6 per side, so they're a big step up from the PSR-E373, which is only 5 watts total. The speakers sound pretty clear. Yamaha speakers are always pretty good, and they project well, but if you want to use this keyboard to perform in any scenario other than possibly busking in a very intimate setting, you're going to need some external amplification of some sort. But here's a quick video of how the speakers sound just as being picked up by the built-in mic on my iPhone. Okay, so other choices. The Yamaha PSR-E373 or the PSR-EW310. The 373 and its 76 key version, the PSR-EW310, are 2 years newer than the 463, and they offer some significant advantages, mostly in terms of sound quality and price. The 373 sells for just over half the price of the 463. The 373 and 310 have a significantly improved piano voice, which is the live concert grand sampled from the Yamaha CFX grand. That's the voice that's inherited from the PSR EW410, which is the 76 key version of the 463. And that in turn was inherited from those retired Tyros keyboards that sold for thousands and thousands of dollars. The 373 and 310 also offer far more DSP effects, as well as super articulation light voices that offer different samples when you press an articulation button. The rhythm and accompaniment features are still actually quite a bit behind the 463, so it depends on whether those features are important to you or not. I did review the PSR E373. I'll link to that in the description below if you want to check it out. Korg EK50. The EK50 is a fantastic arranger keyboard with a comparable piano sound to the 463. Probably not quite as good electric piano sounds, but all the other sounds are comparable, and has other features like left and right line out ports, as well as the best user interface on any keyboard or piano I have ever seen. It also has a very unique and right up my alley way of implementing voices. Instead of selecting individual voices, you select keyboard sets. And a keyboard set is basically Korg has done a lot of work for you by setting up groups of 4 voices, 3 upper and 1 lower, that sound good together, and gives you quick access buttons to turn those layers on and off. The only significant advantage that the PSR E463 has over the Korg EK50 is the built-in audio interface and the price. The EK50 right now is about $125 more than the PSR 463. I did do a preliminary review on the Korg EK50, so I'll also link to that below if you want to check that out. The Casio Tone CTS 400 and the CTS 500. These are 2 new arranger keyboards from Casio that were released in 21-22. I haven't actually seen either of these yet, but they would be definitely worth considering and looking at. The 400 came out first and is probably more in line with competing with the PSR E373, but the 500 is definitely a competitor for the PSR E463. It will have a heavier feeling key bed. It also has tons of voices and effects, and it has live control knobs. It has more chord detection modes. It has superior piano voices than the 463 does. And it also has left and right line out ports. It's also more portable. It's really light, really small. The areas that the PSR E463 still has in its favor, though, over the CTS 500 is one of the big ones is going to be the ability to mute style parts. I don't think you can do that on a CTS 500. It also has the built-in audio interface, and I don't understand why Casio still hasn't started including that feature in their keyboards, because it's huge. And the 463 also has significantly more powerful speakers than the CTS 500, because it's got 12 watts versus 5. To be honest, for me, if you offered me a PSR 463 or a CTS 500 for free, I would probably still lean to the Yamaha because of the audio interface, the bigger speakers, and the ability to mute style parts. That's not really fair to say yet, since I haven't seen one of these Casio tones. So the PSR EW410, which is the 76 key version of the 463. This is an interesting option to keep an eye on, especially for discounts as these new models come out, since it's exactly the same for the 463, except it adds 76 keys instead of 61. It's got a significantly improved piano voice, which is the same as the PSR E373. It's got left and right line out ports, and it's got twice the speaker power at 24 watts versus 12. Even though I'm really likely to buy an EW425 when they become available, I will definitely be watching for sales on the EW410. So the PSR EW473 and the EW425, those are the new versions of the 463 and the 410. They were just announced in early 2022, and there is a very good chance that I'm going to be buying a PSR EW425. I did do a preview video on YouTube that I will link to below if you want to check it out, but basically the improvements on the new models are the polyphony has been increased from 48 to 64. There's a new chipset and processing improvements that's going to basically just give you an overall higher sound quality. Significantly improved main piano sample. There's a mic input with gain, effects, and a toggle switch to switch between having the effects on for singing, the effects off for talking, and mute. There's left and right line out ports on both models, not just the 76 key version. So the 473 does have line outs now. And the PSR-E425 only has 10 enhanced organ sounds that have key on and key off noise and sound leakage. Basically, it's giving you a more realistic set of organ sounds. Some of those are sampled from Yamaha's YC series. So the verdict on the Yamaha PSR-E463. Here's what I really like about the 463. Overall, the sounds are pretty good. Even though the piano sound is getting a bit dated, it's still totally usable, especially for modern music where you're going to be playing along with other instruments as opposed to playing classical solo piano pieces. The key action is light, but the touch response is accurate. And the built-in audio interface is a massive feature. The ability to mute style parts is a massive feature, at least for me. Being able to record high-quality audio direct to a flash drive is also a big feature, and the live control knobs are really handy. What do I really wish the 463 had? I wish it had an improved piano sound, left and right line outs, and a quick access panel button for octave shifting would really, really be nice. Overall, I do quite like this keyboard, and if it was 2018, I would be giving it a really strong positive recommendation. But it's 2022, and there's lots of alternatives that I've been mentioning from competitors, as well as these new versions from Yamaha that are about to be released. I think in 2022, it would still be a good option for you if it meets your needs, but especially if you are able to find a used or a discounted new one. The 463 is already cheaper than most of the alternatives I mentioned, so it would still be a way to get a great keyboard and save some cash if you can find a used one or find a new one that's on sale because the 473 has been released. So with all that in mind, I would definitely recommend the Yamaha PSR-E463 if it fits in with your needs and your budget. If you want to check out current prices for the 463 or any of the other keyboards I mentioned here, please click on my appropriate affiliate links below to check that out. I've also included a link to a good generic sustain pedal that has a polarity switch. So thanks so much, and happy piano playing and happy piano shopping. Have an awesome day.